Hello everyone and welcome back to the Plutonium Show. Let me apologize for the unexpected and brief hiatus that this format has gone through this year. I wasn't sure I would be able to bring it back for the first quarter of the year because, as you can probably tell if you're a regular viewer, I'm in a completely different location. I'm in Japan, in case you are wondering, pursuing a career opportunity that presented itself to us back when Zach and I visited Japan just a couple of months ago. It's been really hectic. Everything moved so fast. We had to prepare and move halfway across the globe, etc., etc., etc. So I didn't want to keep filming it while we were still in France in case I couldn't bring it back. Now that we're settled in, I can bring it back. I've decided I can only film 1 day a week. I kid you not, which is Sunday. So do forgive me if the news I present is not piping hot, because I'm flat out Monday to Friday, and then on Saturday, construction right next door, which is no bueno for filming. So I'll be trying to squeeze everything in on Sundays and release as the week goes along. Anyways, enough of that. We have a lot to get to today, starting with what on earth is wrong with women taking their clothes off. Seriously, I've been covering red carpet fashion recently and relating it to vintage inspirations, but I've been really nice and holding back in these videos because I really wanted it to be about the vintage aspect of things rather than critiquing what these women are wearing. But my goodness, the nudity is next level. Then we're going to cover a highly requested topic that I was unaware of until a number of you brought it to my attention in the comment section. It is regarding a very troubled young man, royal, questionable, definitely related to royalty, but not officially considered a member of the royal family in question. And then finally, we're going to touch upon the latest updates regarding the Sussexes, namely the one person Meghan Markle apparently won't be playing nice with upon her return to the UK, and Archewell Opacities, as I'm going to start calling it. They're all about transparency and accountability, unless, of course, it's about themselves. I'm not one to normally pay attention to award ceremonies. When I was very young, I used to like tuning into them, but we all know they've all since gone down the drain. So I'd forgotten, honestly, how much these things have deteriorated. They used to be classy events and people used to dress to the nines and dress relatively tastefully, at least in comparison to what's going on nowadays. Because I've covered the Golden Globes and Grammy fashions at this point, and I've had to sift through. I haven't included everyone because not everyone's outfits were vintage inspired. But my goodness, have I noticed quite a bit of nudity. And it's not just in this year's award season. I mean, last year, Margot Robbie, I think, towards the end of the year, was prancing around the red carpet virtually naked, as if we all haven't seen everything, she has to offer in that department 10 years ago in The Wolf of Wall Street, 11 years ago now. Dakota Johnson as well. Something going on, and I don't want to make this about age, because I talked about in the Golden Globes vintage fashion video how, to me, I don't care how young you are. I don't like it personally. This is my personal opinion and my personal preference. I don't think any woman, whether 18 or 84, should be showing off certain body parts because I think it's vulgar. It's degrading to all women. It is not empowering, in my opinion. I have never understood how giving the patriarchy that they hate so much what it wants from them, which is nudity and sex. I have never understood how that is a show or a display of empowerment and reclaiming your power. Feel free to disagree with me, of course, in the comment section. This is not a dictatorship here, but it's tasteless and disgusting. And I'm actually tired of people saying you're not 20 anymore. I was 20 not that long ago, and I didn't feel the need to show my skin off and to show certain body parts off to feel like I exist and to feel like I'm validated and to feel attractive or sexy. That's the irony. When you're young, you don't even have to try. You're in your prime. You don't even have to show off skin. Just enjoy the fact that you can pretty much be covered up head to toe and still be attractive, because you've got youth on your side. Same with makeup. You don't need to cake it on when you're young because you've got youth on your side, but that's a different story. It's so disappointing to see all this nudity, and by people who have fans, legions of fans, usually much younger than them, or at least younger on the younger scale, who look up to them and who get this messaging that, oh, this is what I need to aspire to. This is what I need to do to look attractive. This is what I need to do to get attention, which the need for attention is in and of itself a problem. It falls on a spectrum. I understand that without any sort of attention from our loved ones or from our friends, we can kind of wither away and get depressed. But I'm talking this pathological need for attention no matter where you go and who you're surrounded with. So strangers, in my opinion, some of these people, these antics that they pull off, Sydney Sweeney also comes to mind. Another young, attractive woman who really doesn't need to do anything extreme to get attention. All she needs to do is exist. And yet she feels the need to show off literally her breasts in a see-through dress in what looked like it was a gala or something. It was some kind of red carpet event where you'd expect you'd have some kind of taste and class. She's trying to evoke old Hollywood glamour with her bob and her makeup and the way she dresses, her jewelry, but then her breasts are out, which completely cancels out any attempts to look classy, elegant, or even beautiful. It's just crass. And what this screams to me is a pathological need, not just for attention, but to outdo every other female in the room, which is a sickness to me. If you have to be the belle of the ball everywhere you go, if you don't understand that we're all different and you're beautiful in your own way and you can stand out in your own way and we're all unique and we don't look alike. I mean, look, some people nowadays with, certain procedures are starting to look like stencils, like copy paste human beings, which is kind of scary. But aside from those extremes, I don't understand the need. If you feel like you have to outdo every woman in a room, then you need help. You've got some severe issues with insecurity. And if I sound bitter or nasty, I have been on the receiving end of this behavior. I have literally been physically assaulted and someone tried to get rid of me because she couldn't stand that I was there in the room. So this can get really pathological and really extreme, way beyond what we're seeing on the red carpet. But some of these people, these artists that, by the way, I don't even know who they are. I'm not someone who's into the current music scene because music has completely gone down the drain. And I say this as a musician myself. But some of these people, you just think you have it all. You're on the red carpet of the Grammys. You've made it, quote unquote. Why do you still feel so insecure? Why do you still feel that you have to basically prance around naked when you should be feeling like you're on top of the world and that you've earned your place there, not through your appearance or your body or your sexuality? I mean, last I checked, the Grammys weren't the porn industry awards, the porno awards, right? It's ostensibly an award about music. Anyways, enough of this rant. Over the past few months, I have noticed every once in a while, some of you in the comments asking me to talk about a Norwegian whom I had really never heard of before. Marius Borg Høiby. Forgive me if I'm not pronouncing his name correctly. I finally got the time to quickly do some research about him last night in preparation for today's episode. And what I uncovered is not only very disturbing, but actually right up my alley, because it's not just about royalty. And of course, I'm a lawyer, the legalities of this, which by the way, this is Norwegian law. So you all know I'm an Australian lawyer. So it's not an area that I am well versed in. I can, of course, offer general analysis or commentary and insight from a legal perspective, but please don't expect anything in depth because I know nothing about Norwegian law. But it's also interesting from a psychological perspective. The concept of how bad parenting and how neglectful parenting or spoiling your child, and I'm not a parent, but how all of these things, which we talk about very often in connection with Meghan Markle and Prince Harry, how they can really lead to a disastrous, monstrous personality. So let's start off with what this case is about. Marius has been in trouble with the law for years at this point, which is really saying something because I think we're around the same age. He hasn't been on this planet long enough to have a long history of issues with crime, drugs, domestic violence, rape, assault, you name it. This young man has been accused of doing it. He is currently undergoing trial. It is ongoing as we speak for allegedly violating 4 women along with drug and assault offenses, as I mentioned. He's been charged with a total of 38 counts, some of which date back all the way to 2018. He faces up to 16 years in prison if the Oslo District Court finds him guilty. The trial is expected to last until March 19th. So this is a very lengthy trial. Now, I don't know much about the Norwegian royal family. I've never really paid much attention to them. I do know that it is a relatively young monarchy, not in terms of who is heading it, because yes, the king and queen are an elderly couple, and I believe they are very well loved, very respected, and people feel sorry for them right now for what this man and his mother, we'll briefly get to her as well, have been putting them through in terms of tarnishing their reputation. I think also the crown prince's older sister is the one married to the shaman. Don't know if you've seen that documentary on Netflix, by the way. I saw it thinking I'd make a video about it a few months ago, but it really, it wasn't even worth it. But they've already had some issues, a negative spotlight on them, basically. According to an expert and a historian, when it comes to the Norwegian royal family, this scandal is without a doubt the biggest one in its 120-year history. So this all started when Marius was arrested in August of 2024, August 4th in particular, which... is that Meghan's birthday? I think it's Meghan's birthday. When he was suspected of assaulting his girlfriend the night before. Days later, he had admitted that he had acted under the influence of alcohol and cocaine after an argument, having suffered from mental troubles and struggling for a long time with substance abuse. Now, this is very interesting because it almost seems like a family problem. I want to get to Marius's familial background because it's very relevant to what we're talking about after we discuss the facts of the case and the trial, because it's just so important. Even though I'm not a parent, it's something I'm so passionate about. It's why I respect Catherine's work with the first 5 so much, because the way we are treated and the experiences we have as children 100% shape us and determine who we become as adults. But we'll get back to that. Don't want to get ahead of myself. So once this incident was investigated, it revealed a slew of other suspected offenses, including, as I'd mentioned, the assault against 4 women while they were sleeping or passed out drunk, some of which he filmed. Now, in Australia, this is where I can give you some legal insight. If you're passed out, whether you're unconscious or drunk, and you've been fondled with, which, by the way, and I have permission, of course, to share this, we've talked about this before, is something that happened to my partner, Zach, at the hands of a woman. Women do this too, of course. It's a lot more rare, but it does happen. Being passed out and doing it while someone is unconscious makes it an aggravated offense. So it makes it worse. It unlocks a much harsher sentence. So just bear that in mind. It would be interesting to see if that applies here as well. These 4 attacks against these women allegedly took place in 2018, 2023, and 2024, which is when he was eventually arrested. Last week, police announced 6 new counts against him, including a serious narcotics offense from 2020, in which he transported 3.5 kilos of marijuana without financial compensation, and he has confessed to that crime. He is pleading guilty to some offenses, being the more minor ones, which include driving too fast and the narcotics, but he is pleading not guilty to the more serious offenses that he is accused of committing against these 4 women. He also said he was partially guilty. Now, this is very interesting to me because we don't have a partially guilty in Australia, but this is something that is allowed under Norwegian law, of aggravated assault and reckless behavior. So he has taken the stand, and last Wednesday, he broke down in tears during his first day on the witness stand, saying, "It's very difficult for me to speak in front of so many people. I've been surrounded by the press since I was 3. I've been harassed ever since. Shades of Prince Harry. I'm not accusing Prince Harry, of course, of being anywhere near, what Marius has done. He has done nothing in comparison. But the whole, woe is me, my life's been difficult. No accountability. Like, the press has been harassing me. That's why, I'm such a pain. By the time you're an adult, you should know, which he is obviously, that your problems are your own to fix, not to then heap upon other innocents who, metaphorically happen upon your crosshairs. Also, I realized that I hadn't really explained his position in the royal family. So his mother, metta-marit, I think is how you say her name, is married to the future king of Norway. He is not related to the future king. He is his stepson. And as a result, he's not technically a member of the royal family. I mean, of course, they see him as one. In fact, I remember reading a senior royal felt sorry for him and wanted him to be at least given the title of prince because his mother and the prince ended up having children together. And so now he has siblings who are royal and they didn't want him to feel left out. So you can tell that this family was really accepting of him and really loved him. There was a lot of praise. I don't know if I can find that exact article right now, but in my research, members of the royal family were questioned about him when he was young and he had first joined the family, and they had nothing but praise and they gushed about him and called him beautiful. So this was someone who I think, just based on what I've read, because, we weren't there, but I think was given all the support and love that he needed to grow up to be a functioning member of society. But as I said, some wounds that happen early in life are too deep. And if they are not addressed early on, there is a risk that things can really go awry. So he continued with his sob story on the stand, talking about how difficult it was growing up as the son of a crown princess, about how he has an extreme need for affirmation, a lot of sex, a lot of alcohol. Few can relate to the life I have led. A lot of parties, alcohol, some drugs. Oh, woe is me. I'm sure the children in Africa or in Palestine, Gaza, Israel, I'm sure people in war-torn countries, children who have no water to drink and no parents because they were killed and no clothing and no shoes to protect their little feet. I'm sure they're all breaking out their very small violins in unison and playing the saddest melody as they shed a tear, one tear out of their left eye for Marius, who's had such a difficult life of clubbing and partying. See, like I said, shades of Prince Harry. While Prince Harry hasn't committed any of these atrocities that he's being accused of having committed, there are similarities there with the victimhood mentality. And this tells me, by the way, that he's probably not going to change. Because yes, he's young, but he's old enough to know when things are his fault and things aren't. Now, interestingly, with the videos, which were found on his phone, he denied that they show acts of sexual assault. And he noted that he had never shared them with anyone, as if that's, it makes it so much better. Oh, I did this in the dark. I did this for my own sick satisfaction, allegedly, because, he is on trial. He is innocent until presumed guilty. I will say that. And I don't know what he's trying to say here. I mean, no one's accusing him of revenge porn. No one's accusing him of circulating this content. So he goes on to say, if I had thought I had material that showed an assault, I would never have kept the material. Actually, no, Marius, I think from the looks of it, and again, I'm just judging without knowing all the facts, I think you thought you were never going to get caught. Because here's the thing with Marius, and I think now we can start getting into his background. It's a good time to get into this. He's been getting away with this behavior and these issues for a very long time. This man, as I have said, has led a very troubled life. He has been involved with criminals and drugs and dealing with the shadiest underbelly of Norway, from what I've understood through my reading, and his mother in particular has been aware of his issues and has either covered up for him, which there is some kind of discussion that she even destroyed evidence or hid evidence when the police ransacked his home, or she's ignored the issue entirely. His mother's name has interestingly popped up in the Epstein files at least 1,000 times. So she had quite a close friendship with Epstein. And while I am no parent myself, as I said, I think we can all agree that when you're asking Epstein if it's okay to gift your 15-year-old son a poster of 2 naked women with a surfboard, the relationship between you and your son is probably not the healthiest. I think we can all agree on that. Unless I'm a prude, which, I will be the first to admit I am a prude. But I'm also someone who has brothers and a mother, and I grew up my whole life with them. I've lived my whole life with them, and I've seen the interaction, and I have a good gauge. I have cousins and aunts, and you get a good gauge of what is appropriate and what is not between a parent and their child. And this strikes me as completely inappropriate. There was also a lot of information in these emails about how she didn't even really want to spend time with her children and how she just wanted to jet off and, have a fun life, just fly around and recommend women for Epstein, etc., etc. That's a whole different can of worms. But this young man does not come from a stable household. His mother had her own issues. So she was very heavy on the party scene in her youth. And from my understanding, she basically got knocked up by his biological father, who is one of Norway's first convicted cocaine dealers. So this is what I meant when this problem seems to be, I don't want to say genetic because that almost removes culpability from Marius, but it's in the family. It's not an excuse because you can always be aware of certain predispositions that are in your family, and you have it, it is your responsibility. You have to take it upon yourself to weed these issues out rather than succumb to them. No one is perfect. We all come from families that have some issue or another, whether it's genetic, whether it's behavioral. It's really up to us once we get to a certain age to understand that this is not right. Just because my parents did this doesn't mean I need to follow in their footsteps. But beyond that, beyond this family drug problem, he really didn't have a stable childhood. He's had a couple of stepfathers. I don't know if metta-marit actually would marry these men, but she would get into committed relationships with these men. She had a fiance who was also a man convicted of violence and drug-related offenses. Then she got into a relationship with a DJ, and he was basically considered his stepfather. And then she got into another relationship with another local DJ, Marius' second stepfather, until she met the current crown prince of Norway, who has been his stepfather ever since. I think Marius was only 3 years old or so when his current stepfather and his mother met. So this got me thinking of other notorious criminals who have been now convicted or at least charged and tried for very similar crimes. P. Diddy being one of them. And on a hunch, I decided to look into R. Kelly. What I've learned, and I think we've all maybe learned this last year during the P. Diddy trial because it was covering the news everywhere, dominating everything. Diddy didn't have a relationship with his father. He didn't know who he was, and he basically spent his entire childhood in a single, parent household, but very importantly, without a father. And from what I can see with the way his mother has been behaving during his trial and whatever interviews and commentary she's been making and standing by her son, you can just tell he was a spoiled mama's boy. And not having a father, whether you're a girl or a boy, by the way, and being either neglected or spoiled, two extremes of the same spectrum, can lead to pretty catastrophic results, can lead to monsters in human skin. Now, with R. Kelly, I literally Googled this on a hunch. I didn't know. He had no idea who his biological father was. He didn't have a relationship with him. And that's what the research revealed instantly. He didn't know his father. And he's in prison right now for exactly the same crimes that Diddy and now Marius have been accused of. So it really got me thinking about how some people, this is going to sound so controversial, and I really urge anyone listening not to take this personally, because obviously I don't mean you. I'm not directing this at you. I'm directing this at Parents such as those that raised Diddy and Marius and R. Kelly. Some people are simply not fit to be parents. Or maybe they personally are, but their life circumstances are not conducive to providing for, providing a good childhood for any prospective child. And yet, sometimes it's out of their hands. I'm excluding situations where you are involuntarily impregnated, if you catch my drift. But so many people just have kids like it's a hobby. There are always exceptions. There are always people who come from a very difficult background and they grow up to be incredibly well-adjusted, functioning humans in society. But based on just empirical evidence, that's a rarity. And people like metta-marit, is this the result of her parenting? I mean, this is really reflecting poorly on her, of course, because she's the future queen. And then her daughter is also the future queen. Who raised the daughter? The same woman who raised Marius. So what kind of a queen is the daughter going to end up becoming? She's already under some heat because she has posted something cryptic on Instagram about personal attacks, and people instantly, and very understandably, assumed that it was about not only her brother, her half-brother going through the trial right now, but her mother's name popping up in the Epstein files. Now, she's only 22 years old. Coincidentally, not that I live in Australia anymore, but she's actually studying in Sydney. This is the future queen. And people are already scrutinizing her and already placing her under such immense pressure because this is a lot. Imagine this is happening to your family. That's bad enough, but then it's playing out in public as well. So how badly is this reflecting on the monarchy? Currently, people are very pro the monarchy, as I said. So an opinion poll that was published on Wednesday by public broadcaster NRK suggested that 70% of those questioned in Norway support the monarchy, compared to 81% in 2017. So there has been a drop. But people feel compassion for an aging royal couple who are obviously completely innocent in this matter. But can the same be said about the future king and queen? The Epstein files were already a huge problem. They're not attending the trial, by the way. They have released a statement, which I'm trying to find right here. They stated that, the Crown Prince in particular, stated that our thoughts are with everyone who is affected by this case. It has an impact on the individuals, their families, and all those who care about them. We understand that this is a difficult time for many of you, and we sympathize. At the same time, it is reassuring to know that we live in a state governed by the rule of law. I am confident that those responsible for overseeing the proceedings will ensure that the trial is conducted in as orderly, proper, and just a manner as possible. He also alluded to Marius's autonomous status. So this is the Crown Prince trying to distance Marius from the monarchy in an effort to preserve it. He says Marius is not a member of the royal house of Norway and is therefore autonomous. We care about him and he is an important member of our family. He is a citizen of Norway and as such has the same responsibilities as everyone else, as well as the same rights. So you can see how they are very much aware that this scandal could very much spell maybe not the end of the Norwegian monarchy, but who knows? Who knows? Maybe once the current king and queen either abdicate due to old age, they're both 88 years old, or pass away and the crown prince succeeds the throne, how much is public opinion going to plummet? These are all very real questions with very real life consequences. And the fact that his mother, Marius's mother, a woman who has now been associated with Epstein, is slated to become queen, something tells me that the people of Norway are perhaps not too happy about this. I would actually love to know, if anyone's watching me from Norway, what your thoughts are surrounding the future of your monarchy. All right, on to lighter news, being Meghan and Harry. I can't believe that I'm saying they're the light news of the day, but in comparison, their problems are pretty frivolous. It's funny how we talked about troubled childhoods because we know Meghan and Harry both share that in common. Now, with Prince Harry, his father was very much present, and I think, in my opinion, probably saved Prince Harry. Yes, he has his issues with drugs and acting out and, being a very difficult individual, really, especially in his younger years. Again, when he stripped naked in Las Vegas, that's around the same age as I am right now. And I scratch my head, but I digress. He and Meghan have both had this strange phenomena of being overly indulged. In Harry's case, the other parent was present, although there is a lot of discussion about how present Prince Charles was. Well, currently King Charles, excuse me, but then Prince Charles. Harry has always talked about, generations of genetic pain, and my parents were never there for me, or my father rather, they're all very removed and distant and they're constantly busy. It's a very common, I don't want to say complaint, but it's a reality, I suppose, especially in older generations. When you're part of the royal family, King Charles would say how he'd basically rarely see his own parents, and he was sent off to boarding school, etc., etc. But Prince Harry, I suppose Princess Diana's way to kind of compensate for not being able to have as much control over Prince William, because he was, kind of taken under the wing of the monarchy because he's the future heir. She was known to want to deliberately spoil Prince Harry. She would say whatever Harry wants, and he can stay home from school and cuddle with me, cuddle with mommy. And in my opinion, she also used him for validation, getting attention and love. We all know that Princess Diana also had her fair share of problems because she came from a broken home, a disruptive childhood. Now, Meghan was overly indulged by her father, by his own admission, and you add on top of that the fact that her mother, so when it comes to girls, of course, it's very important for her father to be around. And I think, what's notoriously known as daddy issues is a direct result of either absent fathers or absentee fathers who are never home, fathers who are neglectful. So that's also a whole set of problems that could transpire. But with Meghan, her mother disappeared. And whether she wants to admit it or not, that has had some kind of effect on her and her development as well. Her sense of security. I think it's directly related to her very obvious personality issues. And then the fact that her father overcompensated for this absence and indulged her and spoiled her created the incredibly difficult woman who we know today as the Duchess of Sussex, who has apparently decided or declared, through tabloid rags, that when she goes to the UK in July of 2026, which I'm even surprised there is some kind of early confirmation at this stage, because I would have assumed in an attempt to maintain her name in the headlines, she was going to play the whole will she, won't she game right up to the last minute. But she will still do that. It's still early days. We're barely in February. But apparently she's chosen to single out the Queen Camilla, as her enemy of the day or enemy of the year, I suppose. According to The Express, Meghan Markle refuses to play nice with Queen Camilla, with the two women reportedly not seeing eye to eye since Meghan and Harry quit royal life in 2020. Meghan is willing to be conciliatory and take the high road with a lot of people. Well, I'm sorry to tell you, Meghan, that I'm pretty sure that Catherine, the Princess of Wales, probably wants nothing to do with you and probably doesn't even want to look at you and be in the same room as you, but I digress. But Camilla is a different story. Meghan made a real effort with Camilla back when she was living in the UK, but she's way past playing nice and kissing up to her, and she has seen that gets her nowhere. Translation, she tried to manipulate her and charm her the way that she tried with the men, and perhaps even the Queen, the late Queen, may she rest in peace. But just like with Princess Anne and Prince William and Princess of Wales, it didn't work. And what people like Meghan tend to do, this is not exclusive to Meghan, I am once again speaking from personal experience, is once you don't fall prey to their charm and their efforts to manipulate you, they turn on you hard. Article goes on. She's not planning to start a scene. Oh, really? I thought starting a scene was Meghan's middle name. But she's not going to pretend everything is fine and play nice with Camilla. If Camilla wants to keep playing dirty, Meghan is ready to hit back. Two things here. First of all, why on earth is Meghan assuming that Queen Camilla even wants to be in the same room as her? We've seen how every time Prince Harry goes to the UK for some trial or another, the royals conveniently, scoot off to Scotland or some other place where they can't be reached. And if Harry manages to score some kind of a short meeting with his father, that's the key word. It's short. And that's for Prince Harry, a blood royal. Why Meghan thinks that anyone from the royal family is going to afford her any time whatsoever, and acknowledge her existence is beyond me. Second of all, is this Meghan's idea of playing nice, making nice with the royals and offering an olive branch from the now extremely dead and rotten, non-existent, basically all the olive branches have been exhausted over these past few years. But is this their way of reconciling by attacking the Queen, who is very much the center of King Charles's world, and accusing her of playing dirty? Yeah, we'll see how well that goes. The source added, Meghan feels like Camilla has been out to get her for years, because everyone is so jealous of Meghan. First it was Catherine, let's not forget, everyone's out to get her because we can't stand her light. Remember what Harry said, not just in the Netflix documentary, but the Oprah Winfrey interview. Oh, everyone is so jealous of Meghan's light, These people were trained and born to do it, but Meghan just waltzed in and did everything effortlessly, which is all BS. We have heard from royal correspondents that Meghan is actually awful at the job. Meghan Markle is not a people person. People with personality disorders rarely are. She's been so openly critical of Meghan within their inner circle from almost the very beginning. It's like she's taken it upon herself to be the family attack dog and has said out loud what others might think but are too polite to actually articulate. Okay, so they not only accused her of playing dirty, but now they've basically called her a dog. I know that attack dog is a phrase in and of itself, a term to use to describe someone, but it's still got the word dog in it. I'm not too sure the king will take very kindly to his wife being called a dog. But again, what do I know? One thing I will say, one thing I do know is if Meghan does deign to show her face in the UK, at least I hope, because I suppose I should take that back. I don't know this, but I would hope, and past evidence indicates that this will be the case, she's going to be ignored entirely by every member of the royal family. And I will be very surprised if anyone acknowledges her or even looks in her direction. Finally, this piece of news, I give credit to Reddit for uncovering, but I really wanted to include it in this episode, which is Charity Watch, an independent charity watchdog in the US, released this blog entry back in January 22nd of this year, titled Archewell Philanthropies, New Name, Same Old Transparency Problems. Archewell Philanthropies rebranded from its previous name, the Archewell Foundation, in late 2025. Unfortunately, the name change has not been accompanied by any apparent improvement in financial transparency or public accountability. Despite reporting in its federal tax filings that its financial statements are independently audited, the organization has repeatedly failed to provide those audits to Charity Watch when we have requested them. Charity Watch contacted the organization by U.S. mail on January 6, 2026, requesting the audits, but received no response as of January 21st, 2026. This follows earlier written requests sent on January 22nd, 2024, and December 6th, 2024, which were likewise ignored. An organization that claims to undergo independent audits but consistently declines to share them raises legitimate questions about its commitment to transparency. And the blog entry goes on. I will hopefully remember to link it in the description box if you want to read it for yourselves, but in the interest of time, I have to cut it off there. But wow, how rich these people who are constantly harping on about transparency and accountability, attacking big tech and social media platforms, etc., when they themselves are now being called out by a charity watchdog. I think the US's most prominent one for doing exactly what they're constantly complaining about. You just can't make this up. And once again, I feel like we have added, a notch onto our belt of we're not haters. We are just saying the truth. And what tends to happen is YouTubers and people on the internet, lay people basically who are not the mainstream media, we're normally the first to point these things out. And then the mainstream media or even independent organizations such as Charity Watch basically confirm what we've been saying for years. These guys are hypocrites, they're liars, they preach but never practice. And thus, Their organization will be forever known, at least in my books, as Archewell Opacities, because apparently the rule of transparency and accountability applies to everyone but them. That's all I have for you in this episode. Please do consider joining Patreon to help support this channel. Every now and then I'll have some kind of a partnership with an organization to help financially with keeping this channel afloat. But Patreon really is a way for the audience to directly support me rather than me being some kind of a salesperson for some other organization and they get most of the cuts, etc., etc. So you get equal access to the full length of my videos ad-free, and you get to choose what you want to pay. Really, there are a few tiers, you get the same thing. So it's basically, yeah, you decide how much the content is worth to you. The cheapest tier is $3 a month. So, you know, a packet of gum in Australia. Really, I'm not even kidding. Thank you so much. Otherwise, don't forget to let me know what your thoughts are in the comments section, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.